Hey, Shalom, Akim Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Hakwadash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. A sincere Shalom to the hopeful elect that's out there listening, learning, and or teaching. Shalom to you all. All right, Akim Shalom. I just kind of was scrolling TikTok, and as the brothers have been bringing out these past few days, Esau is starting to let his racism go to another level. They're starting to let it out. It's been dormant for a while. It's always been there, like we told you, Akim and Akwath, man, that same devil that had you in captivity, chopping your hands off, putting you in chains and yokes of iron and having you pick cotton and, putting you to death, putting your children to death, graping you, all that stuff that they did, man. These are the same people, you know, physically and spiritually, man, because those same spirits that had these plantations, that own these plantations, they're here today. Those are your managers, those are your, you know, your CEOs and all that, you know. And physically because, they're the Edomites. They're that nation known as the wicked in the scriptures, man. All right, and we'll get that real quick in Malachi chapter 4, verse 1, or Salakia chapter 1. Let's get Malachi 1 real quick in verse 4. It says, whereas Edom, right, which is Edom, is also known as Esau, right? That's the nation of Edom, which is the so-called white man. It says, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places, right? This was them during the time of the Dark Ages. They were impoverished. They were in a low state. They didn't have all this power they have now. They weren't all puffed up thinking, oh, look at us. We got this society. We're the best people. We have this, with that, and the third. No, they were at the bottom of the barrel back then. They were saying, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts. They shall build, but I will throw down. So the Lord's going to give them a chance to rebuild. And this started during the Renaissance period. Okay. And that's why you have pictures of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ as a white man, when it's really the truth is that the Lord's only begotten son, whose name is Yahweh Shai in the Paleo Hebrew, is actually a so-called black man. But these devils had to hide that. That's how they came into power, through lies, through deceit, through trickery. Okay, they deceived the whole world into thinking that this so-called white man, whose real name was Cesare Borgia, they try to convince the whole world that that's the true image, but it's not. Okay, it continues back in Malachi 1 and 4. They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness. Right, that's why when you see in the scriptures it talks about the wicked, it's talking about that nation. That is the most wicked nation on the face of the earth, is the Edomites. Okay, it says, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. Right? Because they're the enemies of the Israelites, and by extension, they're the enemies of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai, man. Because if you hate the Israelites, you hate the Lord. Or if you hate the Lord, you'll hate the Israelites. I mean, because the Lord only chose one people, man, the Israelites. Who are we today? The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Okay, and that's why these devils have a perpetual hatred. And I'm going to show you some examples, man. I'm not the only one who's saying, these comment sections have become more and more racist with time. All right, in a very short period of time, just this year, you have all type of racist bullshit on the comments, man. And ignorant, racist bullshit. Because, you Edomites, man, you have all these accusations and all this shit, but you don't take any accountability for what you've done, which is infinitely worse than anything Jake can do, man. But I'll let the video play, and we're not going to play all of this. This is just me scrolling. I might interject and kind of move around a little bit just for time's sake, but we'll get it started.
A white Has anyone else noticed the increasing amount of racism that's in TikTok comments now? This stuff is turning into freaking Twitter. This is turning into Elon Musk Twitter. Like, it's to a point where I don't even click on the comments on certain videos because I know exactly what I'm about to see. Like, you can't go into a damn comment section without there being casual freaking racism in there. And no violations take place. But if I freaking say ew in the dang comment section, I'm getting a violation. Like, be serious.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings. For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
Okay, let's talk about it. These are obviously racist claims, but I will respond to them as if Charlie Kirk were a reasonable person.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Wrong. Just 38% of America's prison population is black. That's according to the U.S. government. But it makes you wonder why Charlie feels the need to add an additional 12% to the black prison population. Could it be because his bigoted talking points only work if he exaggerates? If Charlie were actually looking for the race that makes up half the prison population in the U.S., he'd look no further than white people at 57%.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do.
Wrong. The word "so" is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes.
He's saying "so" as in therefore, as in one could conclude, but Charlie knows he's lying. Even if he hadn't just lied about the black prison population, Charlie is smart enough to know that correlation does not equal causation, but he's hoping that you don't know that. So he deploys the word "so" to make you think he's coming to an obvious conclusion.
Exactly.
So blacks
Instead, he's making an illogical, racist leap. Charlie knows that we don't have usable data about who commits crimes. It's impossible to have that data since so many crimes go both unreported and or unsolved. Charlie knows that we only have data about arrests and convictions. I'll come back to that data in a moment. What's painfully obvious is that Charlie Kirk isn't interested in understanding the statistics he so carelessly misquotes. He's interested in making bad faith arguments, something that becomes even more obvious in his next point.
blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
Wrong again, and loud this time. If Charlie were interested in honesty, he would have mentioned the other 1350 statistic. Yes, black people are about 13% of the population, but make up 53% of all criminal exonerations. In fact, black people make up 55% of all murder exonerations. Specific, black people are more likely than any other group in this country to be convicted of crimes they did not commit. And then people like you have the nerve to parade these stats around as though they prove something. The reality is that you probably know these stats, but you leave them out on purpose, because to bring that stat into this conversation would make some people think. And that's the last thing a person like you wants.
Hey, so that's a very good point, because I have brought this out in other videos, but, I want to touch on it real quick. This is the word exonerate. The definition of the word exonerate means to absolve someone from blame for a fault or wrongdoing, especially after due consideration of the case. So basically, it's going into, a lot of these Edomites, as we know, they're on here, being flaming racist on the comments. So clearly, whenever they see a so-called black man, or any Israelite for that matter, they're going to assume that you're committing a crime, and they're already convinced in their mind, okay? And part of that is that racism, but it's also, a perpetual hatred, because even if you didn't do the crime, they want you to go to jail. They want you to get in trouble, all right? And I've seen this, man. I've seen this in the real world against myself and against, other people who are Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. I've seen this racism, man. These Edomites calling the cops on you. When I first moved to fucking Florida a while back, man, I got the cops called on me for walking in my own fucking neighborhood, man. Where I was living in. And amongst other things. So, yeah, man, these and that's the thing. I like to make this video with these different clips just to kind of show you the full picture, man. You had an Eve complaining about racism in the comments, And then now you got these CK videos floating around. You've got these Edomite channels, because Esau, they're pushing this narrative now that they're trying to replace the so-called white race, as if the people in charge aren't so-called white, but they have a problem with us. It's like, dude, point the finger at your own leaders, man. They just don't want to share their wealth with you. That's what these dumbass Edomites, they don't understand, man. The so-called JEWs, the Israelis that have America in their pockets, okay, they're also so-called white, but they don't want to share their wealth with you because you're the lower class whites, okay? So now, yeah, you got to live with us, with Jakes, and yeah, these fucking Edomites, they hate our guts, man. And they have these echo chambers, Salakia. These echo chambers on YouTube, on, X, on, all these different social media platforms. TikTok, they got all these echo chambers. What's the typical comment these Edomites use? Oh, the usual suspect. Because what does this devil do? He's a false accuser. He puts our people as the face of crime. But guess what? Like this Israelite man just brought out, this brother was talking about how they exonerate our people at a much high rate because we're falsely accused. So just off their own statistics alone, it tells me that, the other statistics they provide is probably based on the same premise that, black man bad automatically, right? So who's the Neanderthal, man? Who's the monkey, man? It's you Edomites. You Edomites are the real monkeys because you're simple-minded and you always want to accuse Jake. And, of course it goes back to that perpetual hatred. But, only a fucking animal would run a system like this, man. Showing you the so-called white man is not fit to rule because the people who are clearly superior are being oppressed and thrown into prison houses like the scriptures say, man. And I'm going to grab that. What you're doing when you throw a man in prison falsely, you're robbing him of his time, of his money, of his liberty. You're robbing him of everything, man. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 22, speaking about the Israelites. It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled, right? Robbed and spoiled means the same thing, getting taken advantage of, they're taking time away from us, money away from us. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. That's right, man. So you want to use that statistic, CK. All right, that's why they put his ass to death, man. Talking all that shit. And I believe, he was talking about the Ish people, which that might have been his downfall, but it could have also been a psyop. Nevertheless, that guy's words are echoing all over the place, and you got these Edomites rousing up, okay? But as the scriptures say, we're hidden prison houses, man. So if you people are looking for the real Israelites, use these same statistics they use against us. The scripture is going to use it for us, man. If we're making up a big percentage of the prison population in this Edomite empire, what does that mean? It means we're the Israelites, man. You see? There's no escaping this fact, man. We've proven it 100,000 times over who the Israelites are, man. All right, it says they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey. Yeah, man. That's why the so-called black man is so afraid to go out in public, man. And, wherever there's police, because they know they're going to get profiled, And really all the races, man, all the Israelite tribes. I used to work with a guy from Dominican Republic, man. And he was afraid to walk into certain so-called white neighborhoods, man. Because he said they would call the cops on him, because he had an accent. And it's like, damn, dude, we all got to deal with this shit all day. And it's crazy, bro. Of course they're going to falsely accuse, man. It says, they are for a prey and none delivereth, for a spoil and none saith restore, right? We're helpless here. We're under the curses. The Lord got us in a cursed state, and we're serving our enemies, okay, in captivity. So, of course, like the scriptures say, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? The point being, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So they rule the earth. They control the narrative, the statistics. They control who goes into prison. They control who gets exonerated, because there's still people, there's still Israelites in prison who are innocent, who never got exonerated. How many more of those are innocent, man? You know, all you see on the news is Jake being the face of crime and a bunch of angry Edomites because they're losing their power. You know, they used to live in a fancy 5-bedroom house. Now they got to go to a 3-bedroom house, and they think it's our fault. And we're over here in the ghettos eating tuna fish, you know? So, these people, like the scriptures say in Habakkuk chapter 2, these people, their soul that is lifted up in them is not upright, man. So this is why we say to you Jakes out there, stop trying to save the so-called white man. He can't be saved, man. He's the devil that the Bible speaks of. He was created to be destroyed. The Lord is going to make an example out of him when he returns, because this is what happens when a nation rules in wickedness, man. What happens? Just like Sodom and Gomorrah, they got destroyed by fire, and that's the same way America is going out, man. All right? This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith, right? We live by faith. We don't got power. All we got is faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, because this devil is not upright. He's looking for a reason to throw Jake in prison, man. Look at how many so-called Latinos are getting kidnapped by ICE, raped, ravished. Women, so-called Latino women getting raped. So-called Hispanics who didn't have who did have citizenship. Yeah, they were taking citizens, American citizens, man. And then they started attacking also the so-called black people as well. Now they're talking about in 2026, they want to deport so-called Haitians. So you already know that's to attack the so-called black man, because they could just say, well, you're Haitian. Just because they're going to be like, well, you're so-called black, so we can't tell the difference. Just like they did with the so-called Latinos who were legal. They took them away anyway, man. So you can see, man, this devil's not upright. And you can see this is the way he likes to run his society, in a twisted, cutthroat, just manner that is unjust manner, for lack of a better words, man. All right. I think that's all I wanted to get on that. So we'll keep playing this.
Okay, guys, so I am now
Black America.
Most expensive haircut.
There is a lot of really angry Trump supporters in my comments right now, mad at the video that I posted, and that's fine. But I just wanted to say that it's funny when people don't understand why we would be proud of being from Mexico, why we would want to...
Yeah, I am racist. Ready, Rakai? Question.
Yo.
What's the coolest thing you've ever stolen? Don't answer, it's a test, Rakai! Have you learned nothing? Don't answer it!
Oh my God, her voice is annoying as fuck. Hang on, let's skip that part.
Call this lady out for her.
But I just wanted you...
Hey guys, before I call this lady out for her resurfaced racist comments that I found on Instagram, make sure you go book a personalized prank call. The link is in my bio. This call was booked by somebody anonymously. I have no idea who, and let's just say they got their money's worth.
Hello?
Hi, Valeria.
But I just wanted you to know, you see how easy I found you?
A black woman is under police investigation after driving 3 hours to confront a man who left a discriminatory comment online. Authorities say the woman located the commenter, identified as Mike, and went to his home to demand an in-person apology. According to the police report, the incident began when the woman saw an offensive message posted by a white man under her social media content. She later obtained Mike's home address through an unknown method. She then drove 3 hours to his residence, knocked on his door, and told him he must read a written apology she had prepared. Police say the woman threatened to send screenshots of his discriminatory comment to Mike's wife if he refused to cooperate. Shocked that she had found his personal information, Mike agreed to read the apology in front of her. After she left the property, Mike immediately...
You racist.
You racist? That's...
You know what? We'll play that next. But, I just wanted to say something about this real quick, man. All right? We don't want no punk-ass apology from Esau, man. We're going to get our apology, man, in the form of 1,000 years of hardcore slavery. with blood, sweat, and tears. That's how we're going to get it, man. All right, this is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 9. If any man hath an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. You hear that, Esau? So you know, you devils that had us in slavery, that's your future, man. The same, all that bullshit we went through, the lynchings, the children getting fed to alligators, children getting their brains smashed against rocks, our women getting raped, you know, us having to work, you know, damn near 24 hours a day till our hands peeled off and shit, getting whipped, you know, can't even look at a so-called white woman or you get lynched. All these different things, man. Just you know, let your imagination go wild. That's what's gonna happen to you Edomites, man. Except for all the, you know, nasty shit that you did to our men, and y'all could only imagine, because that's how Esau rolls. All right. It continues. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword, right? And that's Esau's blessing, is the sword, man. Because if you go into the book of Genesis, chapter 27, and let's see, real quick, we go into chapter 27 of Genesis. Genesis 27. Give me 1 second. Genesis 27 and verse 39 or verse 38, it says, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept, right? Because, you know, Jake supplanted Esau out of his blessing, right? So it became the blessing of Jacob. So that's why we are the superior people. Okay, that's why Esau hates us so much, because, you know, he knows we're superior, man. So he has to, it's like a video game. When you have a very powerful, overpowered character, they call it nerfing. You got to nerf that character to make it balanced so that everybody can have a fair shot. You know, so that's what Esau is doing to us. He, for lack of a better word, that's an interesting way to think about it. He's nerfing us by, you know, basically accusing us falsely, you know, not funding our area, our neighborhoods, oppressing Jake, not hiring Jake, making Jake go through hoops to get hired. And when he does get hired, he does all the work, doesn't get any promotions, you know, on and on and on. Okay. You know, pushing all these wicked influences on us. You know, these rappers, a lot of them are sold. They sold themselves to these so-called JEWs, man. That's why they call it selling your soul to the devil, right? You know, they sell out, so they got to make all this degenerate ass music. But if they do it, now they have riches, now they have fame, right? Back in Genesis 27 and 39, it says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of the heaven from above, right? So Esau's going to get his chance to rule, and he's in that time now. Verse 40, and by thy sword shalt thou live. So this is the blessing of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is weaponry, the sword, right? You know, they have superior weaponry to any other nation. You know, even back then they had the sword. When they conquered as the Greeks, they had the you know, the sword. They had the ability to make war. You know, it talks about him being a man of the field, a cunning hunter. Okay, so he's good at that. That's his blessing. And so, you know, yeah, continuing on, it says, yeah, and by the sword shalt thou live and shalt serve thy brother, right? Because at the end of the day, Esau is going to serve us, man. And this has happened in history before, during the time of the rule of King David and Solomon. You know, all nations were under us at that point. And then also during, you know, when the Western, so-called Western Roman Empire fell, Okay, you have what was called like the so-called Eastern Roman Empire, which was ruled by Israelites. You know, you could look into the Moors and stuff like that. You know, so our people were ruling over them. That was what they call the Dark Ages. You know, because dark-skinned people rule, and it was a dark time for these Edomites, man. You know, and a lot of that history has been erased, but you can still find certain history books that talk about that. All these coat of arms that portray, you know, so-called Negroes being in royal bloodlines, royal families, man. Ain't no so-called white man putting a picture of a black man as his family logo. Okay, so that shows you we were in power, man. Okay. It continues, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, right? And this is the time we're in now when the Edomites rule. It says that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck, right? So they are in the time now where they're not under us, but they are over us, and they rule by the sword. Verse 41, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him, right? So these Edomites hate us, man, because, you know, there's a saying in the world, they hate us because they ain't us. And that's accurate, man, because they know we're superior, okay? And that hatred goes all the way back to the time of this blessing. When the better blessing was given to Jacob and not Esau. You know, Esau was pissed and he desired to murder Jake. Just like what happened with Cain and Abel. Cain hated Abel because Abel was righteous. You know? And so, you know, you could read that story about how he gave the Lord a shitty ass sacrifice, you know? And Abel gave the better sacrifice. So the Lord, you know, preferred Abel. And for that, Esau is just a jealous bastard, man. He's just angry. He's jealous. And he hates us perpetually, man. It's not about skin color. It's about lineage. That hatred goes all the way back, you know, to this time that we're reading about in Genesis 27 and 41. It says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. All right? To slay means to delete somebody. You see? So he's that murderer from the beginning. You see? So, you know, basically, man, going back to Revelation 9, or Salakia, Revelation 13 and 10, it says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. So this is referencing Esau's punk ass. All right, so yeah, they're going into slavery. And it doesn't matter how many racist comments they leave. It doesn't matter how much they say they're not going to go into slavery. Because, you know, you had this one Edomite punk on there talking about we're never going to kiss your boot. You're going to have to kill me. Hey. Don't you worry, man. That's all I got to say to you. Don't you worry, man. You're going to have worse things to worry about than death when that time comes, because the Lord is going to fuck you up, man. The Lord's going to fuck you up, and he's going to make you kiss that boot. For 1,000 long, hard, drawn-out years, you're going to be kissing the fucking mud, man. All right? Talking all that shit. Fuck these Edomites, man. And you jakes that want apologies, you know, they ain't going to give you an apology, man. It's never going to be sincere, man. These devils have to be taken down by the Lord and put into slavery for 1,000 years. And even then, they're not going to learn. So what's going to happen after the 1,000 years? You could read about it in Obadiah chapter 1. The Lord is going to remove them off the earth, man, through fire. All right? He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. That's right. This is our faith. This is our patience. That our enemies will go into slavery for what they did to us. And what they continue to do to this day, man. All right. And it says that's the faith and the patience of the who? The saints. Who are the saints? Let's grab that real quick right now. This is Psalms chapter 50. Bear with me one moment while I get there. All right. This is Psalms chapter 50 and verse 5. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Who's the people that made the covenant with the Lord by sacrifice? The Israelites. So those are the saints. Okay? And who are the Israelites today? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians.
The apology in front of her. After she left the property, Mike immediately...
You racist.
You racist? That's I am racist.
So idiot for
And
real.
you are an
Yeah,
You are an idiot. No,
I
I'm
am
not.
racist, and I'll say that to the whole entire world. Don't be disrespectful.
You ruined your life, by the way.
Oh, you're talking about respect? You're talking about respect? You are fired from this place, motherfucker. You're not gonna be working here.
Suck it.
Suck what? Look how you look like.
What's wrong with you?
What the is wrong with you, you ugly bitch? Get the
This is the shocking viral video that got a Cinnabon employee in Wisconsin.
Hey, you see, they letting that racism out now. They're starting to be less passive aggressive and more active aggressive. You see, this old dusty cracker right here, man, looking like a goddamn gremlin, ugly ass Edomite too. And you know, you're starting to see this a lot more and more, man. You see it in the comments. You know, this whole bitch is willing to lose her whole job just to let that racism out. You know, she's been holding that shit back so long, it just had to come out, you see. And the people talking to her, I don't even believe they were Israelites. I think they were, you know, from what I heard from the elder, Manatazagba's channel, you know, he commented on this particular video. I think the people that she's talking to were Somalian, I forget how to say it, but they're from Africa, which those are not Israelites, although there are Israelites scattered among them, you know, but these Edomites can't tell the difference. They think, you know, if you just have dark skin, then you know, you're an Israelite, or you're a Jake. Well, they don't know who Jake is, but, you know, they have that hatred, man. That's all they know. As soon as they see dark skin, you know, they you know, their mind goes to that time where, you know, they were supplanted. You know, it goes to that, you know, it makes them think about how inferior they are. You know, and the only sense of superiority they have to hold on to is the fact that they're in power right now. That's the only thing they got to feel better than us, man. And they see it slipping away. They see it coming to an end. And now the racism is coming out. Now the real them is coming out. You know, it's easy for them to hold that shit in while they're sitting on a stack of gold. But now you got Edomites like this that work in fast food, bottom of the barrel jobs, living with 3-4 roommates and a side hustle just to make rent, you see? So now they starting to lose their mind. Now they're starting to come out, you know? And perfect timing for Jacob's trouble, man, because like we keep saying, all hell's gonna break loose. These devils are gonna come down with great wrath, knowing they have but a short time. And this is the perfect attitude for that storm to happen. There's going to be, you know, these race wars, these class wars, all type of hell breaking loose, man. And people being on edge, these Edomites being more and more racist. This is perfect brewing for this hell that's about to happen. Okay, which means what? Biblical prophecy is moving forward, man. Everybody's divided, you know. Everybody's on edge. The economy collapsing, you know. There's been a lot of things that happened this year. You know, you got that three-eye atlas in the sky that's bugging out these different nations. They're all doing drills to protect the planet Earth, as they say. They're doing military drills against a threat that could come from space, you know, which I covered that in my other video, man. But, you know, you see, this is also prophetic, you know, all these things that are happening, man. You know, these Edomites, you're starting to see them bring their horns out, okay? You know, for a long time, their racism was passive-aggressive, but now it's active-aggressive, man. All right, so I'm gonna bring it back a little bit so y'all can see this.
What's wrong with you, ugly bitch? Get the
This is the shocking viral video that got a Cinnabon employee in Wisconsin fired. In the disturbing clip that is spread across social media, an angry white employee hurls racist slurs and makes vulgar gestures at a Somali couple as they filmed her. The woman behind the counter was identified as 43-year-old mom Crystal Walsey from Oneida, Wisconsin. The clip was posted by one of the customer's cousins, Sabrina Osman, aka Skylight7373, on TikTok. According to her, the dispute broke out after the customer asked the employee to add more caramel to her pecan cinnamon roll. The ugly incident went down at Bay Park Square Mall in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, near Green Bay on Friday, December 5th. Amid the Cinnabon uproar, an online fundraiser supporting the fired employee titled Stand with Crystal has raked in $100,000.
Bro, what?
Cinnabon shared this statement on X.
Yeah,
We've seen the disturbing video from the Cinnabon.
So you see that? So now these Edomites are really coming together, because back then, you know, Edomite, you know, and by back then I mean just a few years ago, an Edomite would get fired for being a racist, right? But then what would happen? Nothing. Okay, now this bitch will make a GoFundMe, and you got all these Edomites who, you know, are tired of the so-called white guilt, is what they call it. They're tired of feeling that way, so they're supporting other racist Edomites like themselves, man, in order to get a free pass to continue to be racist, man. I mean, here they are. They did slavery. They continue to oppress our people to this day, yet they still fucking hate us. Like, you know, imagine you kick somebody's ass, you know, every day, and then you rob them, and then you're still fucking angry at them. Like, what is wrong with these Edomites, man? Because they know this is a spiritual thing, man. It's a perpetual hatred. Okay, this is Ezekiel chapter 35 and verse 5. This is the Lord speaking to these Edomites. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Right? That's what they did to us. You know, they conquered us. They took us into captivity. They put our people to death in large numbers. You know, I read the book. I read a passage in that book written by Bartolome de las Casas, you know, which talks about the slaughter that happened here to the so-called natives. And he estimated upwards of 50 million were destroyed here. Okay, and how many during the transatlantic slave trade? Right, many millions as well. I forget the exact number, but, you know, put the two together and we're talking, you know, upwards of 75 million more than likely, man. Just, you know, not to be super technical or anything, but you get the point, man. The point is the point. We don't got to be too technical about it. All right, these devils are destroying our people, yet they're never satisfied, man. They would not be satisfied until they got rid of all of us, man. All right, so what's going to happen to them? Okay, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee, man. So these Edomites are going to get destroyed in high numbers, man, coming soon, man. All right, Jacob's trouble is going to turn into everybody's trouble. And that salvation of the Lord is going to happen. And then guess what, man? In the kingdom, it's going to be open field day with you Edomites, man. All right, you will serve your punishment. All right, and I don't care how many Jakes want to hold hands with you Edomites, man. You're going to get what's coming, man. You're going to get what's coming. This is Proverbs 11 and 21. Though hand join in hand, the wicked, like we read, Malachi 1:4, who's the wicked? These Edomites. The wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered, right? Because it's about bloodline, not skin color. All right, so if you go back to an Israelite through the seed of your father, you're an Israelite, man. You may have light skin. You're going to have certain Israelites that look like Edomites, okay? But the majority of us are so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, right? Or we look like so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. And then some of us will look like so-called white men, look like so-called Chinese, Japanese, you know, whatever. You get the point. So we'll continue here.
Bakery in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, and we do not condone this behavior. The former employee was immediately terminated by the franchise owner. Their actions do not reflect our values or the welcoming experience every guest deserves.
All right, so right here, I want to explain this post. So there's a post that says, "Oh my effing God, it's real, bruh." They basically making fun of so-called black people because they say that so-called black people type this into the Google search. It says, "Is there medicine in glasses?" Let's see if we could see it real quick. Yeah, I kind of show it towards the end. We just fast forward. 650. Here it is. Real quick. Apparently, many black people thought there was medicine in glasses until TikTok started discussing how vision correction works. No effing way, bruh. You see this channel, Legion of Men. It used to be better. It used to be just about, masculinity and shit like that. Now it's about some racist bullshit and a bunch of, crybaby Edomites because their kingdom is going to shit because they're leaders. It says, don't wear other people's glasses. Their medicine's too strong and they're making fun of our people. So, just kind of going into some of these comments, man. I'll just go ahead and let it play. And you can see them on the screen, man. 13%, that's referring to, how they say so-called black people are only 13% of the population. And that's why they bring that statistic about crimes, which is all bullshit, man. The biggest murderers, the biggest thieves are so-called white people, And, you could just start with the Spanish conquest. Look at the transatlantic slave trade. Look at Black Wall Street. So-called black people created their own little area, their own little society. But the so-called white man was jealous because we were doing better than they were. In their own fucking kingdom, man. We beat them at their own game, so they destroyed us. They had these different guys come in, like Martin Luther King and all these other guys. Those were just puppets in order to actually bring everybody together so that they could have more control over us. Now, you try to get a job, you're the last one hired, man. But when we had our own little community segregated, all right, we didn't have those weirdo problems that we have now, man. So they did that on purpose to continue to do what? To oppress our people, man. All right, let's get Micah 2. And I'll just let it play in the background. Y'all can pause it if y'all want. I'm going to just bring out scriptures through the Spirit, man. Micah 2. What does it say? We're going to go to... we'll start at verse 1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand." Right? All these Edomites, when they wake up in the morning, they think about how to fuck up Jake, and they have the ability to do it because, the power is in their hand. They're the ruling race, okay? They can get away with it. That's why you got all these Karens, on YouTube. Now that there's cameras, it's harder for them to hide, their racism. Because here it is for everybody to fucking see, man. All right? Here they are talking about, as you saw in that comment, that they got to get rid of us or whatever. You see? So you could see all these Edomites in their little echo chamber being racist as all hell. But see, when we're racist, we're just being honest. We're for our people. We know our people are better. They're racist just because they're hating. They're clearly a more primitive species, man. The way they're acting, they call us a different species, right? If anyone's a different species, it's y'all. Y'all are the Edomites. You're humans, but we're not gonna go and say that they're another species. We're gonna say they're human, but they're just the lowest form of human. They're base men, like the scriptures say, a base man. All right, Job was afraid to have him around his dogs, man, because you could see all these. Who's the ones doing bestiality, man? Who's the usual suspect? You so-called white people. Who's the usual suspect who does weirdo things to little children? Oh yeah, you so-called white people, right? Who's the one shooting up these schools? Oh yeah, exactly, man. All right, but they want to bring up all these other bullshit. It's just not true, man. All right. Verse 2, "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. That's right, man. You know, we can't practice the law to our fullest extent here. You know, they took our identity from us, telling us that we black, we Latino, you know. They oppress your house and your heritage. You know, they look at what happened in Black Wall Street, man. You know, so-called black people had their own little area going. And they came in and started rioting and with pitchforks and, you know, putting our people down and with guns and, you know, using all type of weapons to fuck our people up and burn the whole town to the ground, man. They said, hell no, you are not going to be on the same level as us. Or better, because we were doing better than they were. All right? Verse 3, therefore, thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil, right? Haughty is talking about proud. These Edomites walk with their nose all the way up in the air, like they sniffing out of space. All proud as fuck for nothing, man. But they don't realize the Lord is doing that. The Lord is allowing them to get puffed up. Just like he hardened Pharaoh's heart, the Lord is building you Edomites up to crush you to powder, man. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord has no problem creating his own enemies so he could just fuck them up and show his power. And that's all you Edomites are. You're just pawns at the end of the day. You're really nothing. Okay, just the fact that you people can even have a society is a testament to the Lord's power, man. Because you were living in the clefts of the rock. You were living in Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia, like cavemen. You are the original Neanderthals, man. Right? And for you eggheads out there, these so-called white people, man, you could look it up on their own websites will tell on themselves, man, on Google. It says that the so-called white man bred with Neanderthals in Europe, man. You see? So they're fucking bestial, man. You know, and it tells you they have so-called Neanderthal DNA. They're the main race that has the most Neanderthal DNA. You see? Because that's just how they are, man. You know, and they're a bunch of false accusers too, man. Let's get a precept to that real quick, and I think I'll finish there. Because, you know, we went into different things in this video. You know, the accusations they have against us, the perpetual hatred they have against us, the fact that they're going into captivity. You know, they have to. They have to. That's called judgment, righteous judgment. You did it to somebody, it's going to be done to you. That's all. No need to get offended. First it was our turn, now it's your turn. This is John 8:44. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. So Yahushua was talking to certain Israelites who were acting, they were coming in the spirit of Esau, you know. And, you know, he's basically telling them they're of their father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. It says he was a murderer from the beginning. Again, going back to Cain and Abel, right? And then Jacob and Esau. Same two people, just in a different reincarnation. All right, it says he was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, right? Because Cain had the truth, but he did not abide in it, man. You know, it says, because there is no truth in him, right? There's no truth in these Edomites. Here they are. They created a whole system set up on lies. This capitalism, right? They do many psyops. Look at 911, you know, amongst many other psyops. They legally poison your food just by changing the name of the ingredients and shit, you know? I mean, there's no truth in this society, man. This society is all about lies. You know, you got the EPS Tyne files, right? Got to be careful how we word that, right? That should have been released. That should be in it. Everybody should know about that. But no, they you know, the fact that we even have to go through a whole process to bring it out, you know, hey, that's these Edomite society, man. Their society is unprofitable, you know. It says he was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So why should we believe your fake statistics about the Israelites, accusing us, saying we're doing all this crime, you know, we're evil, this, that, and the third. Let's get John 8:44 in the blue letter. And I want to go into that word devil and see what we get there. Let me see real quick. What was that? John 8:44. Real quick. The word devil. We're going to go into the blue letter for that word. Let's see what comes up. Diabolos, G1228. And what does it mean? In the Strong's definition, a false accuser, a slanderer. That's right, they're a false accuser. They falsely accuse us of all these things, man. Of being wicked, of stealing, of murders. Okay, but as you saw, the brother had mentioned, that particular Jake was talking about how we're exonerated at a very high rate, meaning we're falsely accused at a higher rate. Okay, so showing you these Edomites, hey, these have to be the devil. These have to be the Edomites, man, because they falsely accuse. Their kingdom is set up on lies. They take advantage of people's ignorance in order to oppress people. They're the biggest thieves of them all, right? Didn't it say to steal, the devil cometh but to steal, kill, and destroy, right? They stole this whole land from the Native American Indians, man. They stole this whole land from the so-called Native Americans, the so-called Mexicans. Now they're taking Mexicans and deporting them to Mexico, treating them like trash, when this is their country, man. You broke all these treaties, did all these things. You devils are going to pay for it, man. The Lord's judgment is coming, man. The Lord is a righteous judge. And you will pay for all you did, you Edomites, man. You heathens. All right? We don't care what you want and what you don't want. It's not about that. It's about what the Lord wants, And same goes to you Jakes that want to save Esau. You want to save the heathens. They will not be saved. They will go into captivity. Every one of our enemies will go into captivity. Let's get that. We're going to finish with that. This is Jeremiah 30:16. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and they that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. So Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai has us in this cursed state, all right? But that blessing is going to kick in once Yahweh Shai returns, all right? As the scriptures say, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, all right? And we're almost to that point where the prison sentence is up, all right? And when the punishment of our iniquity is accomplished, we're gonna be raised up incorruptible with those new bodies, man. That's the new covenant. And guess what? It's only for Israel. It's only for Yasharallah. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, Seminole Indians, West Indians, Haitians, Jamaicans. It's only for us and nobody else. And all these people that were against us, guess what, man? All right? We're going to have them all by the neck. And there's nothing they could do about it. And call halal, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai for that. So I want to finish off again by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaChakwadash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us the truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like this out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom wa. Abad babal. Shalom.